ladies and gentlemen, is football.
In your wildest dreams, could you have imagined this? Two New Zealand football sides in front of jam-packed stands, manager mind games and cheeky flyovers. The time for talking is over.
I have to be very careful with what I say. I learnt my lesson last year with Steve, obviously taking offence to what I said, which I still think is the truth.
He mentioned a couple of things in the media which, a little bit disrespectful to our team. That they were there for the taking. We've been lucky. But we haven't been lucky. We were the better team.
There can be absolutely no doubt. New Zealand football is blue and black.
I think this just showed convincingly we are the best team in New Zealand.
Thompson has surely won the derby for the victory. Harry Kewell! It just had to be Harry, didn't it? Whoa! Oh my word! Timmy Cahill! And Isuzu sets Melbourne victory through to the semi-finals. Melbourne City so often the bridesmaids are not tonight.
Hello and welcome to Total A-Leagues. I'm Vince Rugari. Joining me to look ahead at those two cracking derbies we have to look forward to this weekend. Tommy Orr, as always. Still no Daniel McBreen, still on jury duty. We're lucky to have you back though, Brosque.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
I feel for him. This is dragging on.
Well, I don't know that.
We're the beneficiaries, really. So
do we know that he's not actually in Fiji somewhere, just calling games from there?
Can't rule it out, to be honest. We'll interrogate him when he's back. But boys, before we look too far forward, let's look back just at our moments of the round just gone, round 3. Tommy, we'll start with you. What was your highlight?
Yeah, I think there was a few to choose from, but I think for me it was Andrew Redmayne's performance against Wellington. I think, obviously he made 7 saves in that game, and what an outstanding performance. And I think Carlo Armiento must be wondering what he has to do to get on the score sheet, because he had some amazing attempts, but also in the final minute of the game, the amazing save that he made to salvage the draw for the Mariners, and what a start to the season he's having, and it's great to see.
Bit of juice left in him, Brosque?
Absolutely, and good to see as well. I think he obviously doesn't have anything to prove, but it is good to see when, someone is frozen out in the way that he was last year. There's always that little bit of doubt and wondering at his age, can I still perform at the top level? And he's showing that, Sydney could be, I guess, ruining letting him go.
And leading the league in saves per 90 minutes as well, so that kind of proves how good that he has been.
Faced a lot of shots though.
He has.
We'll see. No, it's a good start, and he's a great man. We all know him. So it's good to see him proving some people wrong, I guess. Brosque, what do you got?
My best moment of the round was just seeing Juan Mata start, put in a man-of-the-match performance. I think, again, when we look, the league gets criticised a bit for not doing more to bring out marquee players and superstars. And, here we have one of the world's best, World Cup winner, Champions League winner, played at the biggest clubs in the world. And I just feel like we lost an opportunity with him last year with the fact that he was here. We really could have done a lot more, filled a lot more stadiums with him if he was playing. And again, someone not with anything to prove, but good to see that he's still got it and he can still put, not just bums on seats, but perform on the field.
Yeah. Tommy, are they, how many times did we talk on this show last season about, the Wanderers, there's a way to use him?
Absolutely.
Do you think Victory are finding it or have found it?
Well, I think, the signs in that game were much more encouraging than their first games. And, he just has that X factor and that quality with his final pass that they're probably missing in the first 2 games, to be blunt. So it's great to see him, as you said, get his first start since January. And, hopefully for a victory, it's first of many to come. Yeah.
My moment is Al Hassan Touré's hat-trick for Sydney FC, coming off pretty dodgy first couple of rounds. I think a lot of people probably expected him to be dropped to the bench for this game, and rightfully so on his form, I think, in the opening rounds. But he,
completely vindicated his
there
choice,
it is.
obviously.
Exactly, and I think there's a couple of things with Al Hassan Touré. One is he's the oldest of 3 brothers, and the other 2 are doing really well. One's obviously a Socceroo, and then Musa, the younger one, is seeing regular game time in Denmark at the moment. So I'm sure there's part of him that is a bit like, hang on, I taught you boys how to play football in the backyard. I'm not a spent force just yet. And then also, he's just a good player in his own right, I think, and he's had maybe some bad decisions in terms of where he's gone overseas and the way it's worked out for him. But I think certainly at A-League level and maybe the next step above it, I think he's got a lot to offer.
He definitely does, and we saw it. And they're the interesting decisions as a manager you've got to make, because you're right, after the first couple of games, he could very easily have been dropped. Ufi could bring in Wallity to see, more of him. He stuck with him, and, the confidence that would have done for him, but also the pressure he was under, and he was able to deliver. And very, very well, all 3 goals. We know he's got that in him. Now, just hopefully he keeps going.
Yep. All right, boys. The Melbourne Derby's coming up, and for one side of it, they're coming off a pretty big high. I think they'll be tired, but they'll be very happy. Melbourne City, after their, pretty historic, in relative terms, win away to Machida Zelvia in Japan. I watched the first half of this game before I succumbed to my requirements to sleep. But when I turned on this game, I heard Simon Hill commentating, which was an absolute pleasant surprise. Yeah. And then you see that goal conceded in the opening minutes. I'm like, all right, we're potentially cooking here. And sort of when I switched off, they were under siege and they conceded. And I was like, oh, well, I'll probably wake up and they've probably got done like 3-1 or something like that. But very, very pleasantly surprised, Tommy, to see that they actually managed to do it.
Well, when you see an own goal like that in the first minute, you have to wonder if it's going to be your day, and that's exactly how it kind of panned out. And I think, Patrick Beach's performance in this game was outstanding. Some of the saves he made, and it had shaves of Ante Kovic in the ACL final all those years ago. Like, the saves he was pulling off were remarkable, and I think he kind of owes the result to the Melbourne City, the result to his performance, I think.
There's question marks, I think, about where our production line of goalkeepers in Australia, like we've always been so good at producing top-class goalkeepers, and it seems like in the last few years, in the A-League at least, there's a lot of older ones and there's some foreign ones, and it's like, who's the next Matty Ryan to emerge? And that's a big label, and I don't want to put that on Patrick Beach just yet, but that's a great performance, and he's young, and
the signs are there.
Yeah,
they definitely. And that's look, a lot of young goalkeepers. They need performances like that to grow, and we've seen with what he's done already for Melbourne City. So he just needs to keep going. Not feel that pressure, but it doesn't seem like he does.
And Brosque knows, how hard is it? When you're a young player in the ACL, you play on the A-League on the weekend, you do all that travel, you're going to Japan where you think, oh, we're going to be under the pump for 90 minutes here. There's a big mental challenge to overcome there, and for someone of his age to show that maturity and handle it so well is a testament to him, really.
Yeah. Do you think, was this just a result, or is this a sign that Melbourne City can actually do something in this Champions League? It's a marathon, not a sprint, I guess.
Of course, but beating a very good Japanese side over there is not something that I think we've seen. As good as, and I remember seeing Sydney FC playing against Hiroshima, and that was probably the best I'd seen an Australian League side play. Even they couldn't beat them over there. So I think the signs are there. They're starting to pick up now. Again, the J-League is at the back end of their season, so that's prime, J-League side right there, whereas Melbourne City is still growing. They're still getting fit. They're nowhere near at their peak, and getting a result like that.
Average age of only 22 in that game as well, which is incredibly impressive and not something we've really seen in the ACL before. But it's also worth mentioning that Vidi has a great record in the ACL.
Yes.
You remember with Adelaide? So
I remember very well.
It's not, he knows how to play that competition, and I think that, for Melbourne City, obviously in a good standing and kind of in a good position now to get into the knockout rounds. And if they can do that, I think, why can't they go all the way?
Yeah, agree. We also saw the guy who scored the winner there, Andrew Naboo. This is a little bit of him talking before the ACL, after the 0-0 draw with Brisbane Roar, talking about his comeback from injury.
Welcome back, though. It's fantastic to see you finally on the pitch. It must mean a lot to you.
It does, yeah. It's been a long 12 months. But, I felt like I've been on the bench for the last 12 months and just haven't played. I didn't feel left out. I didn't feel like it took me a while to get into it. I got straight back into it, and I just feel really, really grateful to be back out there.
Great
Stoked
to see
for
you
him.
back.
Yeah, outstanding. A really good player who's been really unlucky with injury for quite a number of years now.
And that could be frustrating, I guess at his age as well. You see all these young kids coming through, and you're just, like he said, feels like he's on the bench for 12 months. Mentally, it must have been draining for him. So to see him come back, get an important goal, hopefully stays on the pitch.
So looking at the derby, this seems like an opportunity for victory to me when you consider the travel factor. City are coming back. A lot of these players aren't used to, particularly the younger ones, aren't used to sort of, Wednesday, Saturday, sort of, whatever it is. I think it was Tuesday. It's it's there for them, to be honest. Like, if Victory, they're coming off obviously a pretty bad, I think, run, generally speaking, in grand finals and, not grand finals, sorry, derbies, including a grand final.
Yeah.
This is a real big opportunity for them.
I think if you cast your mind back to the first derby last year, Melbourne Victory blew Melbourne City out of the water, and the way they played that game was just with like absolute intensity. I think they still made a lot of mistakes, but they just suffocated Melbourne City. I think that's the template they've got to use in this game, because if they allow Melbourne City to kind of grow into the game, with that short turnaround, they're probably fatigued. Melbourne City know that their quality is obvious, and that'll kind of work in their favour. But I think Melbourne City, the instructions from DLS, I'm no doubt in training this week, will be we need to get in their faces and not make the game comfortable for them. And I think if they do that, then the fatigue and these types of things start to become a bigger factor.
Yeah. Arthur Dillis gave him, we were talking about it last week, Brosque, you weren't here, but gave him a bit of a bake last week, talking about the lack of quality. Tommy had spoken to him about, was it lack of conviction in front of goal? No, it was lack of quality. Did that work, do you think, or do we still have concerns about their lack of quality and or conviction in the final third?
Look, there shouldn't be when you consider the players that they have got up there. Jelasic's been great. That's a great finish there. I think it's probably, and I don't know that it's directed at Vergos specifically, but I do think they need more from him. I think as that number 9, in terms of the player he is, and even that, the run he makes draws a defender away, allows Juan Mata to sneak in behind and finish. I think it's just that, those combinations. Mata, his first start, so integrating him into that lineup and just using the quality of the three. I think maybe in that game specifically, yes, a lack of quality, but I think there's enough quality there to be winning games.
And I think his reference in that game might have been towards Santos, who was dropped in this last game. I think that he was pretty wasteful against the Jets, but it was interesting in this game, and we actually spoke about it together on this show a few weeks ago about how Denny Jonro might drop more into that number 8 role, and that's obviously what we saw on the weekend. And I think with Mata in the 10 and Valadon and Jonro more in the 6-8 positions, it does look more balanced. And Bozanovsky came in and did really well as well. And it just looks like there's players who are more on the same page. And, Jonro, Mata, Bozanovsky, these are players that like to link up. And I feel like there's more maybe technical players who want to play with the ball. That probably suits them better.
Yeah, I agree. Let's hear a little bit now from Juan Mata.
I enjoyed it. It's been some time since I played from the beginning, so tried my best to train as hard as I could since I arrived to the club. Very happy for the victory, to be honest. We needed a reaction from last week. Last week was not good enough. But today I think it was a very professional performance, and we needed to come back to Melbourne with the 3 points, and we're doing that.
So his first taste of a Melbourne derby this weekend, boys. Yeah. He did play in Sydney derbies. Yeah. Obviously was never a real central figure in any of them. But he might be in this one, don't you think?
I think so. I think that, if Victory's going to win this game, you can't help but feel like he's going to have a big say in the matter. I think the intensity, and I'm really looking forward to the matchup of him against Kai Truan, because Kai Truan's been outstanding, as he was last season for Melbourne City, and has shown a lot of maturity in his performances, and I think that matchup will be really interesting.
Yeah.
And players like Mata, age is doesn't matter for them. Guys like him, Ninkovic, Brosque, these guys create time on the ball for themselves, and that's all he needs. I agree with Tommy. I think the intensity needs to be next level against a City side that we've seen be flat a couple of times, against the Raw last week. They weren't great. They weren't themselves and the best that we've seen them play. So if they're intense, and then you've got the quality of Mata playing those through balls and creating time and space for his team, it could be a good night for him.
Yeah. All right, let's go across the Dutch to the Cape Town. First Kiwi derby of the season, and a really intriguing one, boys. You've got a Wellington team, unbeaten, I think, and playing a really interesting style of football. And I wonder if mixing what they're doing with their high line and what Auckland FC can do on the counter-attack is going to be a bit... someone's going to have a good day, I reckon.
Popcorn ready. Yeah, we spoke about it off air before, and I think that, there's kind of two sides to it, because of the high line they're playing. You can see some of the footage. It's remarkable how aggressive they are with it. But, they have had more possession in the front third. They do look better going forward, and these are probably byproducts and positive kind of consequences of it. But at the same time, some of the footage is remarkable. And, it's one thing to have a high line, but when you have a high line this high with no pressure on the ball, you can't help but feel like you're playing with fire.
It makes me nervous watching, honestly. I see it, and they're all something like, do I go, do I not go, when do I go? And you're right, if the pressure isn't on the ball, you can't play a high line. I feel like, and with the greatest respect the teams they've faced so far, they haven't really been tested. And I think this is the week they could very easily cop 5 goals this week.
If Jake Brimmer takes the ball in some of the situations we just saw, we know how good his passing range is, and we know that Auckland has those willing runners. You know, all it takes is the right timing of the pass and run, and they're 1-on-1 with the goalkeeper. So I'm sure that's something that Steve Corica has been working on all week, and if they have the discipline that they usually have in that regard, then, as you said, it could be a long one for Wellington Phoenix.
Yeah. Let's hear a little bit now from Carlo Armiento talking about Wellington's high line.
The style, everyone's talking about it, the high line this season. Just talk us through how you feel like you're adjusting to this style.
Yeah, I think everyone's talking about the high line, but no one's talking about we're having, I don't know today, but we're keeping the ball 70% of the time. We're creating chances, we're scoring goals each game. So I think having the high line helps us having the ball because we're all connected when we lose it. So yeah, I think I'm enjoying it. I know the boys are, and full credit to Chief, he's stuck with the plan, and probably need to just get a few boys back from injury and we'll be all right.
So if you're Auckland this week, what's the plan? Exactly do you wait for the moments of disconnection? Because it's really hard to do this. Like, there's a reason not every team plays this way, is because if you have one link in the chain that is off a little bit, your defensive line is cooked and you're potentially giving up a one-on-one.
And that's where I think Auckland will exploit. I think Bimby will be looking at the analysis, and given they don't press all that well on the ball, you know, it'll be getting Jake Brimmer on the ball, guys like that. And then as soon as he gets it and gets his head up, it's runs from deep, you know. They've got very fast wingers that can exploit in behind, as we saw Central Coast did a number of times on the weekend. So I think it's all about timing, like Tommy said. If you get Brimmer on the ball, you get deep runs going forward, it's very easy to exploit.
And the way they defend, you know, normally when there's no pressure on the ball, as a defender, you're taught to drop, because otherwise it's a gamble. You're basically hoping that they can't get on the end of it. But the way they're defending, like against the Mariners, if they do the same thing, you know, I can't see Auckland being as wasteful with the ball as the Mariners were in the first half in particular. And, you know, you got to say, if Auckland gets 5 or 6 kind of openings, they've been clinical. So,
what do you make of them overall so far this season? Brosque, Auckland, haven't exactly shot the lights out in any way, but just solid, professional, exactly kind of what we expected.
And that's enough at the moment, you know, while they're building into their season. Got a few new players as well, working Cosgrove into the side, and how do they get more chances and opportunities for him? They've got, you know, guys in behind that are just performing really well, and this is a very, very settled lineup, you know, and you know, they just know where they all are, so they're doing enough, very similar to early on last season, you know, where they were just, I wouldn't say scraping through, but doing enough to get wins. They were racking great wins up on the board. They've beaten the Wanderers, beaten Adelaide, 2 good wins, and they're just humming along very nicely.
Yeah. All right, boys, we'll move on to the Brosque Derby. Both of your former teams, Sydney FC versus Macarthur, although, you know, an interesting one for Anthony Caceres, who plays his former side for the first time, Brosque. And I don't know, are they going to come away at the end of this match thinking, why didn't we keep him? Or
him and Bratsy.
Well, him and Bratsy as well, obviously Bratsy the season before. Or do you back in this sort of young midfield core that Sydney FC has against those 2 old foxes?
Look, I think the matchup is fascinating between these guys. You know, the older, more experienced Caceres and Bratton, and we know the quality that these two have. And then Ocon Engsler and Reece Yuli, the 2 young kids coming through. And the fascination, I guess, that I have with it is just, I mean, whether Caceres left or was pushed out, I guess we don't know. But I think it's my question with Sydney FC is, do you need a little bit of experience? I wonder whether, you know, these 2 can carry Sydney FC all the way to a premiership, you know, without that little bit of a Caceres or a Bratton, someone with an older head, someone who knows how to control games, you know, when it's needed. So again, this matchup is great.
And we saw on the weekend in Macarthur's performance against the Wanderers in the first half, Caceres and Bratton, the Wanderers had no answer. You know, the way they were playing through the lines, every time the Wanderers pressed, they would just get out of it almost effortlessly. And you think that if Sydney FC presses like they did against Newcastle, I'm not sure Bratton and Caceres are going to cough the ball over. Yeah. So I think it's going to be quite a big test for Sydney FC, actually.
And for their defence as well, with big Harry Sawyer up top.
Yeah.
Classic, big, strong number 9. There's not too many of those in the league these days. So he's got 6 goals and 3 assists from 11 starts for Macarthur, which is, for a guy who's been on the fringes of the A-League for a long time, never really cracked it, played a lot of NPL for South Melbourne, even went overseas to some sort of, interesting countries. He's probably had an amazing experience in his career, but now it looks like he's starting to become a bona fide A-League striker.
And showing as well, I think that big number 9 is not a lost position. I think he's a handful, and I think the record there with his goal scoring, his assists, the way he puts himself about is annoying for defenders, can be difficult to deal with, and he's always bringing players into play as well. So while he may not get a heap of touches and be as involved as your false nines that were coming in and dropping in, getting more touches, he's effective in so many other ways. He's constantly drawing 1 or 2 defenders away from other players. So look, I've loved watching him this year.
Are you more comfortable, guys, with what you've seen now from Sydney FC? We're a little bit worried, I think, from those first couple of weeks. Pressure immediately on Uffy. And it was a strong win. At Newcastle, but are you seeing enough in terms of their new signings, in particular the foreign guys who I think we've been, probably a little bit impatient in terms of we want to see them, play more important roles sooner? I know it takes time to adjust to this league, but are you seeing the right things?
Well, I think so. I think, if you look after round 1 and the criticism that we had on this show, even at Sydney SC, you have to give Uffy a lot of credit for the way he's turned things around, and the players, of course. But I think if you look at this game against the Jets, the Jets are probably the first time in this season where they've played a team that wants to have the ball, and they were transitioning. And you could see every time Sydney FC won the ball, and they were kind of inviting Newcastle to play through the middle, and when they won the ball, they would counter really quickly. And I think that kind of worked to their advantage. I think that style of play suits a player like Toure, whereas sometimes playing in the smaller, tighter spaces can be more challenging, and something that he's probably still improving on. So I think the games where Sydney FC has to make the game, there's still a little question mark for me around that.
Kispe, you liking what you see there so far, or is there... I'd imagine there's a lot more to come.
There's got to be more to come, yeah. I think, look, those touches that he has on the ball, obviously you can see his quality, but just, I guess, getting him more on the ball. There's still that reliance to just find Joe Lolly when we can and see what he can do. That seems to be, the way they build up, and I think if they can get him more involved and have that genuine, threat on both sides, and even where he's coming in to get the ball and doing a little bit more, just give him a little bit more responsibility, a lot more ball, and see what he can do.
Tommy, let's rip into your team of the week, mate.
Yep, so I've got Redders in goal. You won't be surprised to hear that after my earlier spiel. I've gone for Ryan Grant, Pantazopoulos, Girdwood, Reich and De Vries at the back, who have I thought they were all outstanding on the weekend. Pantazopoulos as well, must be said. When he moved to left back for the Wanderers in the second half, it kind of changed the game for them. It's not a position I've seen him play before, but he was outstanding when he did that. Then in the midfield, I've gone for Verstrata, Bratton and Mata. All had great games. Verstrata, again, just one of the best midfielders in the league and such a rock for them. And then up front, Lasic, Toure and Eze, who I think he surprised a lot of people with his start to the season, and he's proving to be a handful for all defences. But think that he's going to have a good game this weekend against Auckland if the Knicks are going to get any joy out of that one.
I've got no major objections here, Brosque.
None. It's a good-looking team. All players in good form. Had a good week.
Glad to hear.
Not going to question Tommy at all.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Pantazopoulos, to be honest.
Yeah.
And it's good to see that he started the season as well as he sort of finished the last one. I think he's a little bit on the older side in terms of being a young player. I think he's 22. But I can see him getting out of here pretty soon and going to a decent league, maybe first step in Asia or somewhere like. I could see him in Scotland absolutely chewing it up.
And he wears his heart on his sleeve, and I think he kind of, the ethos of the Wanderers and what the fans enjoy in their players, he kind of is a good fit for that club, and I think that, he's tremendous. And to be honest, I think without him, it would have been a much more difficult start to the season than it has been so far.
Yeah. All right, let's look ahead to the fixtures coming up this weekend in round 4, starting off with a big night under the lights of Cooper Stadium for Pantazopoulos against Adelaide United. Perth still on the hunt for their first win. It'll be Brian Kaltak's first game against the Mariners. Hopefully, for Perth's sake, he can turn back the clock a little bit there. Obviously, we've spoken about the Kiwi Derby, the Melbourne Derby and the Sydney FC Macarthur game, but the other one is a highlight for me, boys, because the Brisbane Roar are going to the sunny coast, Tommy.
Yep.
I think we all loved the images we saw in pre-season of that, you take the crowd that doesn't look so good in Suncorp Stadium, you put it somewhere like that stadium in Bock Arena on the Sunshine Coast,
right.
and it looks fantastic.
And it's their first A-League game they've had, and the Brisbane Royals have been around for a long time. They get a lot of travelling supporters to Brisbane from the Sunshine Coast, so I think it's nice for them that they get to host a game. But I think the footballing-wise as well, Brisbane's obviously been very defensive in their approach, and all the Newcastle games have been extremely open, so I think this matchup's quite interesting.
Yeah. All right, we're going to have a look at a little video package now where Luke Bratton and Anthony Caceres engage in a guessing game in terms of how many Premier League teams can you name in 30 seconds?
Terrible. I'll go 12.
14.
So he's got 30 seconds. On your marks. Guess I go.
Liverpool.
Chelsea.
City.
Chelsea.
United.
Chelsea.
Tottenham.
Chelsea.
West Ham.
Chelsea.
Aston Village.
Chelsea.
Sunderland. Wolves.
Chelsea.
Everton. How many is that? Oh.
Chelsea.
Brentford. I said Chelsea.
10 seconds.
Nottingham Forest.
7. 8.
Arsenal.
Keep going. Go.
There's 7 to go.
Oh, man.
Chelsea.
I said Chelsea, brother. Yeah, I don't know.
It's been a minute.
That's not fair.
Bradley's such a pest.
Yeah, I didn't know that he was going to be in his head. But to be fair, we tried to do this just before, and
you failed.
Well, I thought I did okay. Yeah. But if someone was saying Chelsea to me the whole way through, I would have named about half the teams
I
that I did.
would have punched him, I think.
Yeah, good. Funny stuff. More funny stuff coming. Nolene, welcome back.
Indeed.
What have we
Thanks
missed,
for having
bro?
me. Well, let's kick it off with everyone's favourite character in the A-League's Alessandro Diamanti, the great man. Left earlier this week the coaching staff with Melbourne City's academy. He's going over to Italy to complete his UEFA Pro licence. Now, the absolute banger he scored. This man was just box office on and off the pitch, from thanking himself in interviews to doing that. I mean, where does he rank in terms of the all-time greatest overseas characters in the competition?
Well, I think he was obviously a fantastic player, but he was such a character, and I think he's one of the only players I've ever played against where you somehow, after the game, you felt like you were his friend. Like, he was always putting his arm around you, even though you were the opposition. It was, I don't know, I've never really played against a player like that, but it's... it was great that we got to have him for a bit.
Yeah, great character. I mean, there's not many running around, and when you look at the history, there's been a few, and no doubt you'll go through them, but he's one of the best. I mean, on the field, you couldn't help but just watch him with a smile on your face. Yeah. When he was doing interviews, when you're watching him play, just special.
Yeah. 2 things about him for me. One is, I think a lot of people missed in the off-season that he was linked from reports in the UK to becoming an assistant coach at Man City to Pep Guardiola. Now, obviously that didn't happen, but I don't think someone over in England made that up.
Yeah.
Clearly there was something to it, and I just have a feeling this guy is going to go to the top. I don't know if he's going to be a manager, but in terms of his coaching ability and I think the way his personality shines through on the training pitch, clearly City reaping the benefits of the work he's done with their young players, and he's obviously played at the highest levels too. I think he's going to be a pretty incredible coach. The other thing is pretty incredible taste of music. So
I was waiting for you to mention this.
I had to.
Boy.
I think it was it might have been his first season. It might have been mid-COVID times, I remember, because I used to listen to this playlist a lot. So on his Instagram stories and some of his Instagram posts, the background, the music he'd be listening to in his car and all that was just the best Italo disco 90s sort of vibe.
Somehow it doesn't surprise me.
No. And so I Shazammed them all. Yeah. Some of them I knew, a lot of them I didn't, but I was just this is all right.
Yeah, cool.
So I Shazammed them all and I made a playlist on Spotify, which is called Diamanti State of Mind.
Wow.
So if you Google those words, you'll find the playlist.
Wow.
And I encourage you to enjoy it because there's some absolute bangers on there.
There you go.
Well, what about the other players we've seen over time? You've got Jason Cummings, Marcus Flores, the great Besart Berisha. Where would you rank all of them in terms of personalities, both on and off the pitch?
Berish is up there for sure.
Yes.
I remember, obviously thinking back to his Brisbane days when he tried to fight someone from
Brosque.
Sydney FC.
Were you in that game?
No, I wasn't. I was watching that game.
Yeah, and I don't know, he was just box office, everything about it. Such a competitor, but Yeah, we've been lucky to have so many big personalities. Yeah. The one that was recent to me that I thought of before was Charlie Austin, which is a bit left field, but remember there was that documentary where he blew up at the team at half time.
Yeah, that was mad.
Like, I don't see many Aussie players doing that.
And even, I guess, the OG, you know, year one, Dwight, all night Dwight, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, having him out here and he's, you know, he was in the papers all the time. I think he kicked that off for us and got, you know, the A-League in the headlines a lot more often off the pitch than we probably would have liked. But again, it's all good and all part of it, these characters. Yeah.
I want to move on to something bizarre we saw over the weekend. You guys were chatting about Wellington Phoenix's high line, but that wasn't the only odd thing that happened on the pitch, because they had a free kick in the game against the Mariners. Now, what was interesting about their little setup here, 2 players kneeling. Hey, it almost paid off though. Say what you want, but that almost went in.
Well, I don't think the shot had anything to do with that. It's just a sideshow. Like,
How do you know, man?
Well, I've never seen that before, and I want to know the reasoning for why they did that, because I can't rationalise.
What do you like? What?
Look, in watching that last angle there, and you can see that Redmayne does not move, you know. And yes, the free kick is good; it's in the angle, but it seems as though they're trying to literally cover his line of sight to the ball, so they don't know. So he doesn't know where it's going. That's the only thing I can think of outside of. I don't know.
Yeah. But, like, often you see sometimes you have a left-footed player and a right-footed player standing over the ball so that the goalkeeper doesn't know who's going to take it, and it probably has a similar effect. But I don't know, like, it's just... I also wouldn't want to be the player that's on my knees waiting for someone to kick the ball from 5 metres away.
One of them was like that. Wall's bad enough. In front of Wall, on your knees? Nah, bro.
Well, let's move on. You guys are talking about him, big Harrison Sawyer in that game. When it came to scoring goals, he was on it. When it came to trying to win headers, winning every ball, he took it to another level, smashing into the sideline broadcast cameras. Now, lucky for him, there was padding, but players back in the day didn't have that luxury. Roll the tape. Michael Zullo, both of you know him very well. That infamous moment of him basically crashing onto a picnic table on the sideline. Brosque, you were playing in that game. How much pain was he in afterwards?
Look, to be honest, I didn't care, because Michael Zullo, and you know, is the sort of guy where this is probably the only time a table has ever been next to a football pitch, and he's the guy who ran into it. You know,
he's no one else.
Nobody else. He's that sort of guy where everything happens to him. To be fair, it was a scary moment. You know, he jumped back up, so you knew it was okay.
We can laugh about it now, but it could have been much worse.
Why was the table there?
It was all. That's what Arnie was saying after. He's like, why is there a table here?
For that moment.
But like, are they legitimately putting a table there so that the fourth official can put his board down?
Yeah, it must be.
For the 2 times he uses it in a match? Like, is it so hard to just
My favourite takeaway from that was that his Instagram photo for 5 years was a zoom in of his face hitting the table after that happened, and I thought that was great.
That could have gone south. Thankfully, he was okay.
Yeah.
So it was all good. Now moving on to something that was a little bit hard-hitting during the week. Wellington Phoenix star Carlo Armiento essentially broke the news that he was battling with stage 2 Hodgkin's lymphoma since March of 2024. He sat down in collaboration with the PFA to tell his story.
Yeah, so on the 14th of March 2024, I was diagnosed with stage 2 Hodgkin's lymphoma. So I think I've come to a point where I think I want to tell the story, because it's a pretty cool story for people who are suffering now, and I think people looking at me, there's obviously light at the end of the tunnel. So it was 2 months of chemotherapy every second Friday, which is pretty intense. I was in a room with people who virtually on their deathbed, it was pretty sad to watch. And I got talking to a couple of them, and yeah, some people have months to live, weeks, and then I'm there just a 24-year-old fit, or was fit, healthy guy who was playing professional soccer at the time. And you just I think that really opened my eyes. It was pretty scary, to be honest, at the time. It was a pretty life-changing experience. I think now looking at it, I'm grateful I got through it. But I think, like I said before, I wanted to tell this story because there's people on the other side thinking that's the end or there's no way out. And if you look at me, I've come out of it, and now I'm just happily playing what I wanted to do.
That was just a tiny segment in what was an incredible sit-down interview he did. So if you want to watch the full video, it's on the A-League's site and also on Wellington Phoenix website too. Now, gents, what were your initial reactions when you heard him speak so openly about a really personal matter?
I actually had no idea any of that was unfolding in the background. Obviously, we've seen his talent over the years, and obviously last season, I noticed that he wasn't playing. I thought he was injured, but to see that news come out, I mean, I was shocked, but at the same time, I have so much admiration for him to go through that, and you can see how he started this season. He's enjoying himself, and I don't know, it just kind of puts everything in perspective, and he seems like a great kid as well, and it's just great to see him enjoying his football and that he got through the other side. So pretty inspirational, to be honest.
Very, very good to see him telling his story as well, because like you said, this can inspire a lot of kids and a lot of people going through what he faced. And like Tommy said, we didn't know this was happening. And behind the scenes, for all that we see, which is this, guys on the football field doing their thing, and they have their ups and downs on the field. We don't know what happens behind closed doors, and to know that he was battling that and going through it and come out of it, like Tommy said, inspirational and good to see him telling that story.
Yeah. Great attitude as well. Cancer, I'm sure we've all been touched by it either directly or indirectly. My old man had, I think, the non-Hodgkin's lymphoma a few years back. Difficult for the family, but he had the same attitude as Carlo, which was get through it, and you sort of come out the other side with a new lease on life, as Carlo clearly does. 2 goals already this season. So, really happy for him, and that's going to make a lot of difference to a lot of people, the way he's come out and sort of painted the picture of what it's like and how anyone can get through it.
Totally. It's going to help a lot of people out there. So good on him for sharing that, and it helps certainly that he's off to a flyer already this season. So
thanks very much, Nolene.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. Thank you, boys. Another week in the books.
Yep.
Great stuff. We'll see you next week on Total A Leagues.